Today, we are starting off a new tier list. This is just a normal tier list of how good the characters are in the game. I know I've done several other tier lists, but this is going back to the roots of just ranking the characters and how good they are in the game. So I'm kind of combining two things that I've done in the past with just the names of low tier, bottom tier, mid tier, but also ranking these characters out of 10, and it's going to be a range. So let's say in this mid tier, it's going to be anywhere from a 6 out of 10 to a 6.9999 out of 10. It's not just only characters that are 6, because technically there are orders within tiers, although loose. Let's just get into it. Starting off with the bottom tier character, you're going to know who it is, of course, it's Ganondorf. I do think Ganondorf is by a large margin the worst character in the game, but he's still a 4 out of 10 character. Very strong, he has good edge guarding. If you can get your hits with Ganondorf, it is amazing. However, his flaws are very notable. One of the worst disadvantages in the game, if not the worst disadvantage. He has one of the worst recoveries in the game, if not the worst recovery. He has bad airspeed, bad ground speed, his out of shield options are lackluster. Basically, he cannot handle pressure and just hopes to outplay you in neutral over and over again, which is really difficult because the overall strength of characters in this game is actually ridiculous. So while Ganondorf does have the tools to win, sometimes he has more tools to lose, or other characters have more tools to win, so he is always fighting an uphill battle. Yes, I know Higa-chan from Japan does some crazy stuff in the online tournaments and even the offline events, but the character's still the worst in the game. And he stands alone in the bottom tier with 4 out of 10. And honestly, I think he's the worst, as I said, by a significant margin. So this low tier is actually empty. This is just a gap tier. No one sits in this tier because the next worst character is at worst, in my opinion, a 6 out of 10. And of course, that character is still going to be Little Mac. Little Mac, even though he has a lot better tech and a lot better result than he has the last time I did this tier list with Peanut doing amazingly crazy good player. But of course, ranking the character, he still has a ton of flaws, right? He can randomly just die at 0. He doesn't have aerials, so if opponents kind of camp him in the air, it can be really difficult for him to get kills unless he's hitting their landing, which is pretty difficult to do and also risky to do, because if he's wrong with like an up B or a side B, he might get thrown off stage and die. However, his strengths are much more than someone like Ganondorf's. Of course, he has super armor and trample on his tilts. He is incredibly fast on the ground, and honestly, his airspeed is pretty good too. It just doesn't really matter as much because his aerials all suck. Little Mac is honestly really good on the current stage list, having Small Battlefield, Hollow Bastion be generally legal at tournaments, along with his other already good stages, such as PS2 and Battlefield. This character can kill you really early, has a surprising amount of control, and makes you guess unless you are the really upper echelon characters with absurd neutrals or absurd punish games. He's really scary. Of course, his out of shield is really good with up B, up smash, his anti-airs are really good, his parry game is crazy, his shield game in general is crazy, but again, he just gets hit and dies sometimes, and that is going to be enough to put him down here. But again, I think with the optimizations that Peanut has been showing, this character isn't a low tier anymore, but a mid tier. I would give him a 6 out of 10 rating. Speaking of characters that sometimes die when they're offstage, and a demotion from my last tier list, we have Dr. Mario. For those of you that missed the stream of my last tier list, you wouldn't understand that Dr. Mario was only high in my last tier list because someone was like, hey, how much money to put him in high tier? And I was like, oh, like $100 or $200. And then they gave that to me, so he was put into the high tier. But still a solid 6 out of 10 character. We have seen the Dr. Marios be doing really well recently, specifically with Jazar. I know he did pretty well at Smash Factor, so it's not just an online thing. I know Bacon continues to show results sometimes. He has a strong advantage game, really good killing, really good out of shield. So if you aren't ready to play a more defensive game plan against this character and know how to get out of his combos and strings and his pressure situations, he's a terrifying character. Pill can be really scary. If you ever land a forward air, or a cape, or a back air, up smash out of shield, up B out of shield, he has so many things, but again, the problem is his stats aren't that great. His recovery is one of the worst in the game still. He doesn't have great airspeed, so he kind of gets juggled for a while, and it's not particularly hard to keep him in the air. And also, he's slow, so people that are fast on the ground and have bigger hitboxes, he will have a hard time getting in. Like, he loses to most sword characters, he loses to most fast characters, he loses to characters that have strong combo games, especially if they have range with it. So the character struggles against a decent amount of the cast, but that doesn't mean that he can't win, because Ultimate is a game where every character can win. So Dr. Mario, even though he's a bottom 3 character, still a huge threat if you do not know the matchup, so I think he's pretty good. We have a polarizing character coming up in terms of her gameplay and her strategies and how much people like fighting her. We're going to go with the Princess of Hyrule, Zelda. She has crazy kill potential, decent strategies. She has a lot of good stuff about her, but her stats are kind of mediocre. She's one of the easiest characters to juggle in the game. She's one of the slowest characters in the game, but she has a really, really good projectile in terms of Phantom, and if you can't deal with Phantom, this character is obnoxious. She also has a reflector, so she actually matches pretty well into zoners, which are pretty common in this game. So as long as they're not also running away from her with their speed like someone like a young Link, this character can actually do pretty well in some relevant matchups. And again, if you're not ready for something about this character, she's going to kill you at 60 or 70 with lightning kicks, with up airs, with uppies at a shield. She has a lot of good stuff, but that doesn't mean she's not still in the lower echelon of characters. She struggles to get off of the ledge if you can't set up a Phantom. She struggles to get down at all. I mean, she gets back to the ground quicker sometimes, but it's still going to be an area that you can punish her. But again, gets juggled, gets ledge trapped pretty bad, ledge traps people pretty efficiently, does a lot of damage when she gets her hands on you, can zone you out, but it's difficult for her to keep up the zoning against the better characters in this game, and it's difficult for her to get her hands on you if it's a character that doesn't really get affected by the zoning, but also can kind of play that mid-range pokey game. So again, Zelda, pretty solid character, but not going to be anywhere better than bottom 4 though. And I think this is actually a like slight underrating of the character, but I just think he is very okay, even though he does fight for his friends, and that is Ike. Again, this is the type of character we're talking about down here. This is how much faith I have in these 3 characters to kind of group Ike here. Obviously, Ike has a lot of good stuff. He has one of the best aerials in the game in terms of neutral air. He has really solid kill confirms. He's again really good at killing, but I feel like Ike is a little too simple and his frame data isn't quite good enough to do a lot of the mix-ups that he was at the beginning of the game. And again, there are so many characters that their metas have advanced, and the characters that he was doing well against, he no longer does well against. And this is more so like a player versus player thing, but again, I really don't like having to rely on player versus player as a character, because that means that you have to outplay your opponent, but you could also be outplaying your opponent while also letting your character outplay your opponent's character. You know what I'm saying? So Ike, even though he does have a lot of stuff, forward tilt, dash attack, back air, up air, neutral air, eruption 2 frames, a decent recovery, sometimes the recovery is exploitable if you get a hit out of your double jump. And again, his neutral is very one-dimensional, right? Like I would say Little Mac has a more diverse neutral than someone like Ike, even though Ike also has aerials and ground moves, but still, he is kind of only fishing for one thing the majority of the game. It's like nair and grab, sometimes down tilt. Obviously, the popularity has gone down. I feel like the results have overall gone down, and that isn't to say that, again, Ike can't win. I think Ike still boasts pretty decent matchups with a lot of the high tiers and top tiers of this game. It's not like he gets bodied by every single character in the cast, right? I mean, he has a good matchup versus Game & Watch, which I rank really, really highly. But at the same time, having a couple of good matchups doesn't mean your character is good, because every character in this game has a couple of good matchups. It's kind of how Ultimate works. And I can already hear you in the comments being like, ESAM, this is ridiculous. I understand. I don't necessarily disagree, but I have just seen so much more of these other mid-tier characters that I feel like I have to put Ike down, because he's doing less recently than the characters that are universally seen as bad, which maybe means that he's also kind of bad. The protagonist of World is Light slides in at the 6th worst character in the game. I think Kirby's kinda good. We obviously saw Gilhu versus Spargo. If you missed my analysis of that, it'll be up in the corner. The thing about this character that is better in my opinion than all of these other characters is that Kirby has really solid win conditions. I mean, obviously Little Mac has KO punch, and like camping with Zelda can be really good, but Kirby has like very obvious win conditions, right? Of hit your opponent off stage with your combos that drag horizontally, edgeguard them. And in a game where a lot of the good characters are kind of amazing but kind of struggle to recover, like Aegis, like Cloud, this character can really shine in those aspects. In a game that is jump the game, right? Kirby has an amazing crouch and can nullify characters that specifically need to jump all the time, such as Zero Suit or Palutena can do well versus Wolf. I mean, I've seen the Kirbys do really well in the matchup. Again, J-Jaw beat Ouch, and Ouch is like ranked like 30th or something in the Lumi rank. Kirby's tilts are all amazing. You got hit off stage, you died. You got your double jump read by a back air or a forward air, you died. Of course, they can inhale to kind of swing matchups on their head. Even rough matchups like Shulk or Snake suddenly get a lot harder when Kirby gets that inhale. However, that doesn't mean that Kirby is an amazing character, because again, Kirby's stats are kind of mid. You can kind of camp Kirby out if you are playing really, really defensively, but it's one of those things that it's really hard to consistently do that, because over the course course of a 7-minute game, Kirby can absolutely catch up to you, get one hit, do a ton of damage, and then just end up killing you. Then Kirby can camp because he has the lead, can crouch, has really good ground moves. If you're trying to approach, you'll get up tilted. This character also does so much damage for some reason. Dare Ride is a crazy combo and the Kirbys are getting better at it. His normal combos just do like 40 to 50, and I know that's like a general B&B for this game, but for a character that's like kinda bad, like the 6th worst character in the game, that's kind of ridiculous. This next character might come as a shock considering I've lost to this character in a somewhat recent set. Next up, we're going to be talking about Isabelle. Isabelle is honestly one of those characters that you need to know the matchup in order to play well versus this character because she's obnoxious otherwise. If you do not know or have an efficient way to deal with the down B on the ground, this character can be annoying. If you do not know how to punish her side B when it's withdrawing because you might run in too quickly and still get command grab, this character can be annoying. Of course, forward air and back air are going to be amazing. Nair out of shield is great. This character has really solid low percent combos with up tilts, up airs, forward airs, grabs. This character has a decent amount of stuff. Isabelle's a pretty good character. However, the disadvantage of this character leaves something to be desired. You can be reverse pocket, but otherwise like getting off of the ledge and getting down against a lot of characters can be a real struggle for this character, and killing can also be a struggle. The lack of getting something like a triple turnip like Villager would to get a kill, the lack of really strong out of shield options. I mean, up smash is pretty strong, but it's not going to be strong compared to a lot of other characters, and it's also not that big. It can sometimes be difficult to land a kill if you're not getting either a command grab or like a down B into up air type confirm or like a hard read forward smash, right? She does have, of course, her jab wobble type thing with jab, jab, down smash, jab, up tilt into up air, I'm pretty sure works, although I don't know if that will ever actually kill. I don't think Isabelle has similar flaws to the characters below her because like she's not really a character that can get zoned out or walled out or just like ran away from, but she is a character that can get overwhelmed in the offense because she doesn't have great defensive options. And so that can lead to just the strong characters that do a lot of damage just kind of aggressing and just killing Isabelle pretty early. Up next is a character that has had a resurgence in the meta because of their great matchup with one particular character being Peach. We have King Dedede, and yes, I say Dedede now. I do think this character is still quite mid, right? The character has a lot of flaws, is quite slow, has awful airspeed, but one thing that is really, really important in today's meta is longevity. Dedede is one of the heaviest characters in the game, so even if you're going to 0 to 80 this character or have a really strong advantage versus this character, which a lot of top tiers can do, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to kill him. He has a recovery that is mess withable, but it has armor on the up B, so it's pretty difficult to get a kill on this. This character eventually gets an opportunity to play neutral again, and even though the neutral isn't great, right, it's not an amazing neutral, it is still a chance to get a hit, get your opponent on the ledge, and that is of course where Dedede shines with his ledge trapping between Gordo, forward tilt, down smash, up smash. This character can get a ton of mileage and of course is pretty strong, right? He has good kill moves in terms of back air, Gordo, up tilt, of course all of the smash attacks, right? Having a command grab kind of makes it a little bit more difficult, or I guess ambiguous, of how to juggle this character, so because you can't just shield a landing aerial and then punish him like you can with other characters that are the heavy characters like Bowser or DK. The weight of this character is huge right now. I think longevity is so important in a game, whether it's you can avoid getting hit by kill moves or you can just survive the kill moves because you're a really heavy character. So that is kind of what bumped Dedede up a bit in my tier list compared to last time. Still not a great character, right? He still has all of his flaws that I've mentioned multiple times, but Dedede is just a character that's kind of exhausting and mentally taxing to play against him, especially if it's keeping, like if the Dedede player is keeping it close, right? Because you always have to be careful of that random dash attack 2-frame, of that, oh, you're at ledge, are you going to get hit by this Gordo? Are you going to get 2-framed, by down tilt? Are you going to, you have to be ready for so long because this character can just live a very long time, and it puts people on edge, and that can really, really help over the course of not only just a game, but especially a set. And at this point of the tier list, we're starting to reach they have really good results nowadays. Top 8 at regionals or majors, because we're talking about the Belmonts. Obviously, the top 8 would be Wave Dash. This character is very, very difficult to approach on. The wall that the Belmont players are throwing up with forward airs and side Bs, all the traps that they have are really, really difficult to deal with unless you play either a very, very strong character in like the matchup specifically, or you have a ton of experience against them. It is very very difficult to approach a Belmont efficiently without getting slapped around a couple of times. Honestly, I feel like the characters that do the best versus the Belmonts aren't necessarily the ones that mitigate to the wall, but just don't care, eventually get in, and then kill them. They have a great fastball air dodge, and of course if you're far enough away from them, they can kind of just throw side B or just like fall with a forward air to kind of cover their landing. The character is quite good, right? Like, we're not necessarily at the 6.0 characters anymore. This is more like a 6.4, 6.3 type of thing. Kind of the opposite of Dedede, right? Where Dedede you can make mistakes and then eventually find a hit. The Belmonts kind of suffer from the opposite of they have to play perfect and not get hit, because if they do, they might die. You know, the Belmonts are more similar to Ganon and Little Mac in that aspect where, oh, you get hit, you might die. They're really easy to combo. They're like a great combo weight, a great combo size. They get edge guarded quite heavily, and they're just really, really good combo weight for most characters in the game, and they have to avoid getting hit at all costs, which they can do. They have great tools to not get hit, but that doesn't mean it's going to be something you can do efficiently over the course of a 5-minute game, or especially a 3 out of 5 set. But this character has started pulling much better results and much more optimized stuff. We're talking Piranha Plant. Of course, Lucky just won Warp Zone, a regional in the Midwest recently over some very strong players, and suddenly Piranha Plant has been doing better again. Lucky has scored some amazing wins, but not only is it character wins, just doing well, having good placement results at these tournaments kind of shows me that Piranha Plant is a little bit better than I thought. Of course, I have been playing against Diz's Piranha Plant in Central Florida a couple of times. Not only are they a matchup check, because if you're not ready to just deal with Patui, it's going to be a rough time, but this character has decent combos, a recovery that's easy to mess with as an elite edge guarder, but if you don't have great edge guarding, this character is going to make it back. You have armor, you have great ledge trapping, you have strong advantage. This character also has really good killing, right? Piranha Plant kills you with back air, with up smash, has one of the best kill throws in the game. Of course, Patui is a kill move. If you ever get hit by the armor of down B, this is going to be scary. The edge guarding of this character can be really solid. So this character has a lot. However, they are just basically outclassed by a lot of characters. They don't really have great range. So if a character is like a sword character, they can kind of do really well versus him. If a character can kind of camp better than him, it can be a difficulty. If they have a reflector for Patui and Poison Cloud, it can be difficult to kind of mitigate pressure. I'm excited to see where this character goes in the future, because I do think the combos are getting better, the advantage is getting better, and if you can pick up on someone's habits like their fastfall air dodging, you're going to get up smashed to like 85 and explode. Robin is our next character on this list, and honestly this is a pretty low placement for Robin, but again, I think all of these characters are tournament threats, right? So even though this is technically like bottom 6, 7, bottom 11, right, this character is still quite scary. Robin, of course, when they have all of the materials, 11 sword and fire and thunder, this character has a lot of things that you have to learn to deal with. This character is really strong, has amazing kill potential, great edge guarding, obnoxiously good ledge trapping. Like all these characters, the last like 4 have really, really good ledge trapping. Just generally good normals, great aerials, can air to air. There are some aspects of this character that are unfortunately lacking. The offstage gameplay, because you can run out of wind tomes, is a little bit rough. They can go high, but they're going to get hit. And of course, the biggest deal for this character, the biggest issue, is running out of your resources, because this character can go from a terrifying character that you're incredibly afraid of into a character that you're just gonna run at and not really care what they have. If they run out of fire, if they run out of Levin Sword, like I can literally be scared of getting hit by anything because I'm at 95% and they have Levin Sword, and then they whiff 3 times with Levin Sword, and then suddenly I'm no longer scared of this character, and you just run at them and not really care because the projectiles are reactable, and even if you're wrong and you jump into something like a non-Levin forward air or nair, it's not gonna matter. Resource management sometimes makes characters worse, but having like, broken resources is what makes characters like Steve crazy. However, Robin's resources make them a pretty good character, right? If they constantly had all their resources and never had to worry about it, I would probably put Robin somewhere in like high tier, like maybe even like upper high tier, maybe like around, Byleth or something like that. But because these things run out and they aren't the best character in the game without them, it means that they're going to sit down here, especially with a recovery as exploitable as theirs is. For the next little chunk of characters, we actually have 4 characters that are kind of having a resurgence in their meta and just a very an upswing in their popularity. First off, we're talking about Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. has had an upswing in results recently. They have added a player into their ranks that's been doing really well in Zap. You have Yoda Cage, who just beat Void and did pretty decent at SmashCon. You have Sweshy, who did well at Collision. Of course, I'm pretty sure like young Eevee still plays Bowser Jr. out in Europe. You have Riridze, who now lives in Central Florida, who's really, really strong. This character has a lot of rep, but I mean, this character has a lot of good things about them, right? They have a difficult to deal with side B. They have the best footstool out of shield in the game with footstool side B and footstool up B. They have great edge guarding. They have very strong combos. They have a great grab, kill throw, kill jab. The kill potential of this character is ridiculous. The only thing keeping this character from being higher is the fact that sometimes they're going to explode because of the higher damage and knockback, because they're correlated when you hit Bowser Jr. with a kill move as opposed to the cart. Sometimes you get comboed for longer because you hit the cart, so even though they're supposed to be flying farther away or get knocked farther away, they don't, because they actually take less knockback. This character randomly will take more damage and more knockback in situations that are really inconvenient for them, and of course they have the thing with their up B that if they get hit out of their up B with a move that doesn't send into tumble, they don't get their up B back, so they die, which means that random characters can just kill them at 0 when they're off stage, which means that the character has to play really, really solid all the time with the risk of that happening to them. But the character has some good stuff. Obviously it has amazing strength, but again, randomly dying at 0 when you don't have the ridiculous strengths of someone like a top tier character can be really rough. While this next character isn't necessarily getting more popular, their best rep has been doing really well and boasting some strong wins on some elite level players. We're talking Lucario and Armadillo. I think on my last tier list I put Lucario at bottom 4, but since then Armadillo has told me to sit down and shut up because he's been beating people that are elite level players. He got a win on Shootone. He's been doing generally very well. I don't remember the other players he's beat, although I know he's beat more than just Shootone. Got 9th at Battle of BC, has been playing honestly very consistently recently, had him having their lowest placement at SmashCon at like 49th in the past while, and when your worst placement is 49th, that's pretty damn good. This character is kind of the opposite of what I was talking about with Dedede, where, he's going to live longer and eventually get an opportunity and then can kind of edge trap. Lucario isn't necessarily going to live longer, but he's going to cut the lives of every other character very short. It doesn't matter how much he's losing by, Lucario can always make a comeback, not even because, he'll just outplay his opponent, but because he hits them twice and they die. And characters that hit twice and kill their opponent are really good. Aura Sphere at ledge, back air, up smash, side B. He has so many great tools. The only reason he is still, in my opinion, a mid-tier character and not higher than this, maybe he should be in the 7 out of 10 category, is just because he's inconsistent, and again, there are so many characters in this game that have ridiculous kill potential that you're not even going to get a chance to have max aura. Well, Lucario with no aura is like the 2nd or 3rd worst character in the game, still better than Ganondorf probably because he has a decent recovery, but he does like no damage, has to do so much work to get, any amount of damage, any killing. So you need to rely on that aura to get kills, get better damage. And if you're not really going to have that aura that often, even if you'll get the stock aura, right, of like you're down a stock, therefore you're stronger. If you're not getting that like I'm at 90% aura, it's going to be really hard for this character, and sometimes that just happens. I honestly haven't seen a Lucario matchup chart recently, but I can imagine this character having some pretty solid matchups, whether winning or even with plenty of the top tiers, but the nature of this character is inconsistent, and therefore I cannot put him higher than this. Regardless of what day it is right now, we're talking about Monkey Monday up next. Donkey Kong has definitely had a large resurgence in results and player base, mostly off of the backs of Hikaru and Chunky Kong. Hikaru got top 3 at a European major a couple of months ago, and Chunky Kong top 8'd Momocon in May with solo DK beating players like Cosmos, and Hikaru of course beating Bloom Forever in one of the craziest sets of all year. This character has the strengths of King Dedede that I was talking about, where sometimes he will just live. He's a little bit more edge guardable, and by a little I mean a lot more edge guardable than someone like King Dedede, but at the same time his stats are significantly better overall. He is fast on the ground, has great ground normals, of course has one of the best kill confirms in the game with his DKO or Ding Dong. He's just strong in general. He has quite good normals between down tilt and back air and up tilt and up air, has a really solid advantage state, but again the reason he can't be higher than this is simply because he can get hit and and die, whether he's going to take a bunch of percent and then get hit off stage and get edge guarded or get edge trapped for a really long time. This character can struggle to get back into neutral, but he is terrifying in neutral. I had to play Chunky Kong at CEO. I was so scared the entire time, and my matchup with that character is +3. DK is definitely one of those characters that puts the fear in you, because if they just play advantage right, they might kill you. If they get that down tilt trip at 45%, they might kill you, whether it's with punch or grabs. Chunky Kong almost took Sonics to game 5. Sonics, of course, one of the best players in the world in a matchup that can't be good. I don't know, man. This character's kind of nice. Again, still somewhere in mid-tier because the high tiers in this game are also pretty nice. But DK is definitely one of the scarier characters now and is getting a lot more prevalent in the meta. So, gotta be ready. The last character in this chunk of characters that have had a bit of a resurgence when it comes to their results, is mostly off of the back of 2 players. We're talking about Banjo and Kazooie. The main person I'm talking about is, of course, TG from Japan, getting wins on Mutace and other top players, but Mutace is the main one I know. And of course, I happen to live in a region with one of the Banjos that has been playing amazingly recently in terms of Whompy, that have definitely taken sets off of literally every top player in Central Florida except for me, including beating Jake, I'm pretty sure, with Banjo and Kazooie, beating Goblin with Banjo and Kazooie, beating Beast Mode Paul. That one might be with Palu, but this character is kind of scary. The problem with this character, honestly, is they have a lot of really amazing stuff, but they are really difficult. Like, they have to do things similar to what Pikachu has to do in terms of dexterity, in terms of mobility, in terms of having to be reverse and not be reverse and do all these perfect little things and be always ready for these situations. But of course, unlike Pikachu, they're going to net way less. They're going to net 25 or 30%. They're going to net getting down to the ground being a little bit more difficult to deal with, or getting 30% in a combo. Maybe sometimes when they're at higher percents, it'll lead into the Breagle Blaster into the side B confirm. But this character is randomly super technical and difficult to play for not that much reward, because obviously the tasks of the shooting the eggs back and forth is never going to realistically happen. So even though they theoretically are the best character in the game, because of that, that's never going to happen. But either way, the technical skill that you need to play this character at a very high level is really high, higher than most characters, for significantly less reward than the other characters that require that dexterity. But that doesn't mean that they don't still have amazing things. They have some of the best 2-framing in the game with, forward smash and down tilt and side B. They have a difficult to deal with projectile in terms of their down B. Neutral B is a very good move. They have a great back air, good forward tilt. They have some decent moves. It's a little clunky to work all of it around when you aren't incredibly proficient, and messing up with this character can really hurt. I do think they have pretty decent matchups, even in the high and top tiers. They have some winning matchups, some, difficult to deal with matchups at the very least, awkward evens for the top tiers. And that's a good thing to have in this meta, because they can randomly do well at a tournament if they have a strong bracket. I mean, that's why you saw TG beat Mutace. I know Whompy thinks that Banjo beats Cloud, who's a really prevalent meta threat. This character can do quite well in all of these aspects, but consistency is really difficult for this character because of just how hard they are. Speaking of consistency issues, we have one of the characters that can be absolutely terrifying, but is generally not, because they're really hard and they're going to die at 5%. We got Pichu. Pichu is, in my opinion, still one of the best offensive characters in the game. They have crazy combos, they're so fast, they have so many mix-ups, they have great edge guarding, great, damaging combos, amazing kill confirms. But the problem is, in a meta where people have big swords that they swing safely, and characters that have really strong kill confirms or just really strong random kill moves like a snake up tilt or a Pyra forward tilt, this character can really struggle. You have to be playing so well and so on point to get all of your stuff, which sometimes is SDI dependent and your opponent can get out anyway. But even if they don't and you're dealing 80% in a hit, someone can deal 40% and then you're at the same type of death percent, which is so sad. You never can outlast your opponent when you are running away from them. And one of the biggest things is knowing that you are safe in this game and knowing that you aren't going to die from something. But Pichu rarely has that, because things randomly kill him because he is a fast faller, so he can get spiked off stage and die really early. And of course, he's the lightest character in the game, so he will randomly die to super weird things at 40 to 60%. I don't even know what percent a diamond forward smash will kill Pichu. It's probably 40. maybe like 30 at the ledge, 50 from center stage. I know me, Brawler, can sometimes grab him at literally 30% if I have rage and kill him from the floor. That's kind of the struggle of this character, is you have to be playing so well, so consistently, and the thing is, if you're going to be playing so well, so consistently, you can do that with a better character. Is he still going to make upsets? Yes. Does he still have good matchups in the top tier, especially against characters like Roy and Joker and Fox? Absolutely. This character still has really strong winning matchups, but over the course of a tournament, you are going to mess up. Over the course of a tournament, you are going to run into matchups that are less than favorable for you. So unfortunately, Pichu, even though I think he's a good character in theory, is still down here. We went from Hyper Rush down, and now we're talking to Hyper Control. We got Villager. Villager is honestly a surprisingly uncommon character. I feel like with how much people like Animal Crossing that more people would play Villager, and also Isabelle, even though I do see more Isabelles than Villager overall. But Villager, just in general, is much more control, right? You have Lloyd Rocket, you have forward air, back air, you have tree and down B, which kind of halts the game quite a bit. This character, in my opinion, does have some great stuff. Again, good grab combos, great killing with up smash out of shield. You get triple turnips. Unfortunately, you sometimes do get one terms to kind of balance that out, but you also have like forward smash, down smash berries. This character can honestly be quite scary if you are able to get people off stage, or if people don't know how to deal with all of your stuff again. However, the problems that this character has are similar to Isabelle's, right? Where they don't have a great disadvantage, they don't have a great recovery. I mean, it goes really far, but you will take a lot of damage when recovering, and you don't honestly, in my opinion, have a great way to get off of the ledge if the person just respects ledge hop forward air. So many characters in the top tier kind of thrive in that space, so it can be difficult to solidly get wins on these characters. But again, if this character randomly has explosive offense with forward air change into forward smash, or like reading an air dodge into like a down air into up smash, like this character has a ton of great things. I know that Pokelam or Elam beat MBD last weekend, again has decent matchups in some of the top tiers, right? In my opinion, does decent versus Samus, decent versus Snake, one of Diddy's worst matchups, you know, Villager and Isabelle both. But again, in a meta with a lot of sword characters, and in a meta with a lot of characters that are very consistent in neutral, it's hard to out consistency those characters as a character that kind of wants to be consistent but doesn't have the crazy tools that these other characters have, so we have a mid tier. From a decently light character to one of the super heavies of the game, we're talking about King K. Rool next. I think K. Rool has a lot of great tools. Belly armor, great edge guarding in my opinion, scary ledge trapping, random super bursts of killing, really tricky setups with crown and jabs. This character also has decent results recently. Obviously last year we had Kirby Kid doing great and Brujo doing great, and I think they're still both doing decent even though they haven't been traveling as much. Similar to King Dedede, we have a character that's going to live a long time and is terrifying with rage. You know, getting spiked by this character with rage, getting down throwed, getting down tilted. This character can randomly just explode damage onto you, which can be really rough to deal with considering they're heavy and will have rage more often than not. However, if people do know how to edgeguard him by kind of grabbing the ledge, dropping off on the inside of the stage, and then double jump back airing this character, sometimes you are going to get rinse repeat edgeguarded in a way that kind of takes away from your longevity stocks. But if your opponent doesn't know how to do that, slash they're not in a position to cover that, K. Rool's recovery does go incredibly far. He honestly can harass people in many aspects because of this far recovery. Having something like an armor move that is an edge guarding tool that his neutral air is really, really underrated, because he actually edge guards a lot of characters legitimately for free. I don't know, man, this character is kind of scary. You know, not necessarily for me personally, because Pikachu does ridiculously well versus this character, but K. Rool is a threat if you do not know the matchup, and in plenty of matchups in the high tier, this character does pretty decent. Kirby Kid has always done well versus the Steve players, even though that matchup is probably still bad in theory, but can do very well versus some big meta threats by just outplaying their opponent. They have the tools to outplay, even if they are less consistent than some of these other high and top tier characters. I don't know, he has good tools, and if you can't deal with projectiles really well, then the crown and the cannonball, blunderbuss, can do quite well. His edge trapping can be a little tricky to deal with. Like, you can kind of subvert the expectations of people when playing this character if they know the matchup, and do some weird stuff that kind of preys on them knowing too much and being too ready for like the most intense sequences and setups, and then just like smack them with forward smash, just dash attack them, get an edge guard, something like that. This character can randomly steal stocks, steal games, and steal sets, so you gotta be ready for K. Rool. This next character is one I've made a video on analyzing one of their top players. That top player is Fawn, and we're talking about Duck Hunt. This character has had 2 videos of mine recently because this character is one of the coolest to watch, right? A ton of setups, great projectiles, good aerials, solid damage. Literally main issue with this character is killing. If you're not getting something like a side B into forward smash, which apparently works, or side B into back air because people are ready for it, this character is not going to be killing until 150, 170. Like, I consistently live as a Pikachu player who's a light character until 140, 150, and in the game, kind of as I talked about with like the heavy characters being better in like the recent meta, is that if you cannot kill your opponent and then they can get their kill confirm on you, that's going to be rough. Duck Hunt does not have a hitbox on their up B, which means that this character is very susceptible to edge guarding. Just randomly, if they can't get a kill and try to extend off stage, they can get spiked. They can get edge trapped for a long time. Of course, can help. Their can and side B are both frame 1, which is obnoxious to deal with as most characters. You know, it makes a lot of combos not true, but again, you're taking damage, and if you're at high percent from like a kill or, you know, trying to avoid a kill confirm, you might just accidentally, you know, kill yourself with the can, which is rough. In my opinion, Duck Hunt has a lot of strong strengths, and honestly doesn't have that many weaknesses other than not killing and being susceptible off stage, but those are 2 really, really important flaws in my opinion. Like, not being able to kill is arguably one of the most important flaws, like that, and dying early because of a bad disadvantage. Like, I don't think Duck Hunt has a bad disadvantage, but because they're susceptible off stage and can't kill, they can get clutched on a lot. Like, they will get clutched on more than they will clutch against other people, in my opinion, which is not a good property to have in a game as volatile as Smash Ultimate. I think the Duck Hunts have been doing really well recently, but again, still like a high 6, you know, 6.8, 6.9 type of thing. Nice, but not nice as hell. And hopefully with this higher placement of this character, people will be less mad at me in the YouTube comments. We are talking about, of course, Marth. He's no longer the worst swordsman in the game, because I think that's Ike. I've been seeing some of Krieg's results. I've been seeing Krieg play. This character has some good stuff. Again, similar to Duck Hunt, Marth can sometimes struggle to kill if you're not getting your tippers, right? And again, getting tippers is honestly not super consistent. There are very few true combos into your tipper setups, and it's mostly just going to be you outspacing your opponent or spacing very, very well against them, which again is volatile inherently because of how fast the game is, because people will just overshoot, or because you just mess up because you're human. But more than most of the characters down here, Marth has a lot of control because Sword is big, and Sword is safe, and Sword is good. Swords are inherently a good thing to have in this game, and so Marth can play the keep away game and the mid-range game against a lot of characters that want to get in, or can play the mid-range against people that kind of want to keep you out, but then can kind of be right next to you and be like, hey, I can dash forward tilt, I can run inside B, you know, has a good out of shield option, has good edge guarding, even though again, sometimes it won't necessarily kill because you need tippers to kill. I definitely think Marth is the top character in the mid tier, because again, some games Marth can look absolutely amazing. If you're getting down air F smashes, you're getting side B tippers, you're getting up air and back air tippers, those will kill so early. But again, there are plenty of games that I've been watching of Marth where, oh, that should be a kill, oh, they didn't get a tipper, and then suddenly the opponent lives until 160% and then hits them at 55 with a kill confirm because they have max rage and they die. So again, Marth, similar to Duck Hunt, is susceptible in that way, but also similar to Duck Hunt, can randomly get kills super early, but also has a sword and like is pretty mobile and stuff. So considering I put Marth at like bottom 10 last year, this is like bottom 20. So it's definitely a higher spot for him. Maybe he'll be in the 7 out of 10 range next time. I'm not 100% sure. And that is going to be it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Next one, we're going to be talking about the borderline high tier / upper mid tier characters. I talked a lot this one. I actually expected to do a whole other section, but this recording has been 1 hour and 7 minutes. So again, look out for the next parts. I will see you all next time. Peace.